Great. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Marianne Hill. I'm the chair of the Livable and Sustainable Communities Committee for the Valley Economic Alliance. There's several committees that are standing committees that are part of the Alliance, in addition to the regular board meetings and executive meetings and so on. So I want to welcome you. If this is your first time with us, we are glad to have you. I understand we're going to have a fairly good sized crowd today, which is awesome. Perhaps today we won't go through introductions. Sometimes we do that if we have a smaller group, but I'm so glad that so many are joining us, and I think we're going to have a great program today. I'm fortunate to know both of our speakers, and they're such innovative leaders and thinkers, and are doing such good work for our community. So again, for those of you who are new, in the last year or two, our committee has focused a lot on housing because it's such a critical need in our region and in our state. I think in California, we need 3 to 5 million new units of housing to meet the need. I think the city of Los Angeles mandate from now until 2028 is 455,000 additional units. So we're going to be talking about a very innovative housing model today between the two partners that will be represented. So we'll look forward to hearing from them. But first, I want to introduce you to Veronica Romero, who is the Vice President of Client Services at PacFed Benefit Administrators. She's going to actually introduce our speakers today, and she also and her company are regular supporters of the Alliance and are sponsoring our meeting today. So thank you very much to PacFed Benefit Administrators. Let me tell you a little bit about Veronica. As I mentioned, she's the vice president of her company. In this capacity, she's responsible for the maintenance of employer computer rates and profiles. Veronica began her career at PacFed Benefit Administrators in 2003. So you have been there a long time, which is awesome, and previously managed the company's member services department. Veronica has more than 20 years of experience in the healthcare industry and is licensed by the state of California as a life agent. So Veronica, take it away. Thank you again for your sponsorship and for your participation, and we'll look forward to hearing from you with your introductions.
Great. Thank you so much, Marianne. Good morning, everyone. So we're here today to introduce a few keynote speakers. We have Corazón del Valle. It's, the heart of the valley is a Holos community, the largest housing development to date, and is a testament to smart growth. It is a huge step forward in the goal of creating a holistic approach for developing affordable and permanent supportive housing that tackles the interconnected challenges that we are facing. And Erica, should I just continue to read that script? Okay, great. Thank you. So we can no longer afford to approach the housing crisis in isolation, but must consider and design for things like climate change, racial equity, reactivating the local economy, and whenever possible, density. In addition to providing housing and services for households that have experienced homelessness, the integrated population mix also allows for economic mobility. The commercial space will house the San Fernando Community Health Center, providing medical and dental services to residents and the community at large. The robust sustainability features will include a gray water irrigation system and solar panels that will power a backup battery that can power the building in the event of a blackout. Additionally, the community rooms have been designated cooling centers during the heat waves. And now we'd like to introduce the Cristian Ahumada. He is the CEO and Executive Director of Holos Communities. Cristian was born in Chile and came to the US in the late 1970s. His passion lies in the evolution of cities, community building, integration of individuals of all social economic strata, and sustainability, environmental resilience, racial equity, and ending homelessness. Cristian's primary goal today is to advance new, faster, and economic models of housing that do not rely on the utilization of low-income housing tax credits. And over the last 20 years, he has overseen the development of more than 2,000 affordable apartment units primarily apartments with support services for people who have experienced homelessness and households with special needs. During his tenure at Holos Community, previously Beers Housing, Cristian has successfully transitioned the organization from the parent company, Mental Health America of Los Angeles, into an independent and strong housing developer, diversified the organization's income stream, and created a new LIHTC, Department of Bifurcated Housing Production, in addition to growth of the LHICT team. Holos creates new holistic paths for developing communities as living ecosystems. These paths will advance solutions for the multiplicity of challenges ahead: the homelessness and housing crisis, global warming, racial and environmental inequity, and the displacement of small and BIPOC owned businesses. He believes that for too long, we have attempted to resolve these issues through disparate strategies and mutually exclusive solutions, as this new approach will solve these challenges together because they are inherently interconnected. Cristian also graduated from the California State Polytechnic University in Pomona in 1992 with the inaugural year of urban and regional planning as a discipline. He loves to spend time with his son Diego, train Taekwondo, play chess, garden, barbecue, and looks for UFOs. And with that, Cristian, are you on the call today? Yes, you are. There you are.
I am here. It would be great if we could introduce Audrey right now as well. Is that possible?
Definitely. Yes, so we have Audrey Simmons as well, the CEO of San Fernando Community Health Center. As the CEO of the San Fernando Community Health Center since 2013, Audrey Simmons has spearheaded the organization's transition from a community hospital to a state-of-the-art federally qualified health center that provides a full complement of medical, dental, behavioral health, and education services for the entire community, with an emphasis on the most vulnerable and chronically underserved. Under Simmons' leadership of the San Fernando Community Health Center has experienced unprecedented growth with a 284% growth factor from 2016 through 2019, as it continues to remain true to its nearly century-long legacy as a treasured health resource by enhancing community access to high-quality primary care services. Along with the main health center location in city of San Fernando, the community clinic also operates a satellite clinic in Mission Hills in collaboration with Harbor Cares, a nonprofit that provides transitional housing to unhoused persons discharged from the local hospitals. The San Fernando Community Health Center current major project is a build out and opening of an additional community health center site with the footprint of the Corazon del Valle supportive housing development, currently under construction in Panorama City, slated to open in mid-2024. This new clinic site is in collaboration with Holos Community, project developer, and San Fernando Community Health Center. Ms. Simmons' philosophy of health has evolved throughout the years to include the understanding that health cannot begin and end with a medical appointment or a prescribed medication. These patients serve the San Fernando Community Health Community Center must be seen as a community members facing many stresses and pressures that affect their overall wellness. Therefore, their San Fernando Community Health Center interest and involvement in projects related to supportive housing and sustainable communities has become a leading aspect of the strategic planning for the San Fernando's Community Health Center's future. Ms. Simmons is actively involved in several community civic organizations, including serving on the board of directors of the Valley Cares Community Consortium, the Community Clinic Associations of Los Angeles County, where she serves as a finance committee, the Valley Economic Alliance, where she's an active member of the Livable and Sustainable Communities Committee. She holds a Master's of Science in Health Administration from CSUN, a Bachelor's of Science degree from Loma Linda University. And with that, Cristian. Thank you so much.
All right, let's take it away. How do we
Just share the screen, I think.
let me see. Let me ask the audience here. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
First,
Yes.
yes, we're good. Okay. All right. So I want to encourage everyone to ask questions at any given point in time, because we're going to give you some very rich material that goes against the very grain of the way we have created the city. So I apologize if we insult anyone for any of our views here, but we are dreaming about a better future, which really means a decomposition of the way we've done things. So let me start off by asking a question to everyone. What's more important to solve? The homeless crisis? The housing crisis? Global warming? Racial equity? Can anyone answer that, or would you all agree that those are horrible choices to choose from?
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that those are horrible choices to choose from, right? So the conclusion to that is that we must solve for all of them together. But the way we have created systems, infrastructure, housing, transportation, education, services, all these things are not interconnected. They're viewed singularly. And we must learn to now wrap these things together to be able to solve for them together. So this is a snapshot of a way of doing this. And by no means am I saying this is gospel, okay? This is a way to the top of the mountain, and there's many ways to that top of the mountain. So without further ado, let me begin here. And let's see. A long time ago, as some of you may have read in the history books, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, no, just kidding. In the early 1900s, Los Angeles had a streetcar. And that streetcar was a wonderful thing because it allowed individuals to go from one end of the geographic area that is Los Angeles to the other end. So for instance, the other day I was pleasantly surprised to hear that you could have gone from Pomona to Santa Monica in a streetcar, right? Today, we would never conceive that. Heck, we can't even conceive going to the supermarket without getting into a car. So this, unfortunately, and freeways and all these things that at that point in time didn't really seem all that bad. Because if we take a look at pictures, like I get the, for instance, the magazine from the Auto Club, and it shows at the very back this black and white picture of two cars going through the 101 from the San Fernando Valley to Hollywood. And you think today, two cars on a freeway. We don't think of that, right? We got 5, 6 lanes, they're all packed. We think of the 405, they're all packed. All these things contribute to global warming. We must build parking spaces for them. So anyways, make a long story short, we once had a streetcar and that went away. So now we have a new opportunity. And that new opportunity is called transit-oriented communities in the city of Los Angeles that includes the San Fernando Valley, or at least most of the San Fernando Valley. And that essentially means that within a quarter mile of every stop, you are able to get land use concessions. And those land use concessions are extremely helpful because they allow you to build, among other things, more density when you go affordable. They allow you to get height setbacks. And really, they allow you to build without parking, which today seems almost inconceivable to most folks. So I just want to leave that out there for a second. And like I said, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. So now, today we build with parking, and we don't think much of that, but are folks aware that most parking has to be built with concrete and steel? And that concrete and steel accounts for 23% of the world's contaminants. And that's really a bad thing. But also, it accounts for a significant amount of cost associated with construction. So for us, for instance, on anything that's under, let's say, 50 units, which unfortunately is most of the density in a typical project that we do, that's somewhere around 15% of total development cost. And the only way to drive that number down is to essentially build more, but the available sites to be able to build more units they're practically non-existent. Having said that, we were fortunate enough to secure the Corazón del Valle site, which is just south of the Panorama Mall. And we were able to, as a result of being close to a future transit district, able to accommodate 180 units that will be built over 2 phases. So right now we got phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is a little bit ahead of phase 2. But in this construction that we're doing, that parking, that concrete podium that essentially holds the parking, is 11% of hard costs, which means 11% of construction costs, and 7% of total development costs. That's huge because that number is $7.6 million just dedicated for parking. So keep that in mind because we're paying for something that's extremely expensive and we're contaminating. So now we have a new strategy, a new initiative that was just adopted by City Council. And this Livable Communities initiatives, among other things, brings about the good stuff that we like to see. The mixed use, mixed income buildings where we have activation of commercial street fronts on those ground floors. But alongside of that, we have a greater amount of public transportation, and you're able to get those land use concessions when you're by those stops. And this is a great thing for the San Fernando Valley. However, what it's going to do is going to increase the density in those major thoroughfares. And I want you to think about it this way. The density has to go somewhere. So as Marianne pointed out at the very beginning of the presentation, we got to build another 500,000 units. This is just across all economic strata, but we still need about another 100,000 just for vulnerable households. But then, we have missing middle. We have all these other units that haven't been counted in that figure. So we got to put probably another 1 million units somewhere. And you ask yourself, where will that go? And I think if we want to retain the low density of the inner pockets of single family neighborhoods, the way to place that is by transit-oriented communities. Have it be smart growth, have it be mixed, have it be as few parking spaces as possible, provided that you're by those public transportation lines. And then you'll be able to accommodate everyone, and it can be healthy. So let me continue here. So like I was saying here, the strategies include a minimum density requirement that promotes this multifamily mixed use development. And as I mentioned previously, the elimination or reduction of parking minimums in transit-rich areas, which generally means somewhere between a quarter mile and a half a mile of those stops. So why does the LCI make sense? Well, as you can see from the little image to the right here, when we're able to do these things together and we're able to now bring about greater density and we're able to activate that ground floor and we're able to reduce parking, we're able to address the environment while we're addressing the economy, while we're bringing about equity and sustainability. Public transportation is a wonderful thing because it allows you to get from point A to point B without the expensive costs associated with cars, insurance, and the impact to the environment. So anyways, I'm going to stop there because the next slides are going to be discussing the health clinic that we're going to be putting on the ground floor. That is an example of a healthy and livable use. And by no means is that unique to just our model here. It could be anything. But this is an example that serves a community need while it is addressing the environment, the economy, and equity. So I will welcome any questions, or we can certainly proceed and engage in questions at the very end.
Thank you, Cristian. And I certainly would, if you want to raise your hands, if you have any questions, that would be great. I want to start with one, if that's okay. And I'm going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here. And I totally support what you're doing, by the way. So, but I'm just going to throw this little wrinkle in here to see how you might respond. So for many years, I was the CEO of a multi-service poverty relief agency. And many of our clients were transit dependent. So supposing they rent an apartment in this lovely complex, which looks great, but they get a, for example, supposing it's a woman who cleans homes. That's her career pathway. And so she gets a new job in Woodland Hills in some little obscure neighborhood. And it's really not transit friendly to get there. It might take her 2 or 3 hours to get there because of shifting buses and trains and all that kind of stuff. And then she gets her first bus is 30 minutes late, which I know a lot from, talking to people who use transit all the time. It's 30 minutes late. She's late to her job. She has to then work that many hours, which she normally works in this particular home. Then she's late getting home, which to pick up her kids from school. So I totally agree that we should be more utilizing transit more, but it's also not a perfect system in LA because it's not built out in the same way as it is in New York City, for example, or Chicago or other places where they've had great transit for decades and decades, maybe 100 years. I don't know. So I guess I'm just thinking in terms of a low-income person who's got limitations. How would you respond?
Great question. So this is the start of something, right? We're about to transition into this new world. So one of the things that we're working on is in our new buildings. Is everyone familiar with shared transportation, shared vehicles?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is essentially all our new buildings are going to be net zero. That means that there's going to be solar panels, pretty much the entire rooftop, and that's essentially going to feed into batteries, and then it's going to feed the energy for, the building, but it will also feed the energy into shared vehicles that then with a little app on your phone, you'll be able to say, oh my God, I missed my bus. Or you know what, or today I have an interview, or today I have to be at X place that maybe it's not really connected, as you were saying, Marianne. Right, by transit. So today I'm going to, is a car available? And there'll probably be 3 or 4 of these vehicles available in each one of our buildings. So as we make this transition to this new world, there will be opportunities like that
Mm,
to be able to mobilize throughout the city.
awesome. What a great solution. That's wonderful. I just checked. I'm not able, for whatever reason, I'm not able to use the gallery view right now because of this, the PowerPoint. So I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else that has their hand raised that wanted to ask a question before we move on to Audrey's presentation. I don't see anybody at the moment, so we'll certainly take some more questions at the end. So thank you so much, Cristian. And now we'll turn it over to Audrey.
Hello, my name is Audrey Simons, and I'm Cristian. Are you able to continue to share?
There we are.
Yeah. Share the slides since you have them up, or do you want me to move to?
I just stopped sharing, so
Okay,
you can
let
go.
me, all right, let me go to share the slides. Yeah, here we are. So San Fernando Community Health Center, as Veronica and Marianne have said.
Oh, Audrey, we can't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Hold on for a minute. Let's see here. Now can you see it?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
All right. So San Fernando Community Health Center has for many years been a healthcare resource in our community. The history of San Fernando Community Health Center goes back to 1924. We were the first nonprofit hospital in this community, the northeast section of the San Fernando Valley. At one time, we were the only community hospital in the entire San Fernando Valley. So we have a very deep commitment to this community. We also have a very deep understanding of the populations that we serve. In 2013, as Veronica said, we transitioned from a nonprofit community hospital to a federally qualified health center. And as federally qualified health centers are designed and mandated by the federal government to serve the most vulnerable in the community. So we have, over the years from 2013 to the current day, served the population that will be the major residents of the beautiful piece of property that Holos Communities has designed and is currently building. We have also developed an area of expertise in serving the most vulnerable of this population by our satellite in Mission Hills, that we are within the footprint of another type of supported housing. It's transitional housing from hospital care to a residential site for those people who were unhoused when they went into the hospital, and therefore there is no home to release them to when their health improves, but they still need some monitoring. So we have built up through the years an expertise in how to deal and how to work within these supportive housing communities. I will tell you that the introduction that the Valley Economic Alliance was able to provide to me, to Cristian back in 2021, led to us discussing the possibility. He showed me I'm going to move forward to another slide here, if I can. He showed me the beautiful, beautiful design of the building. And I'm a contractor's daughter, and I looked at that commercial space on the ground floor of phase 2, and I said, what are you going to do with that? And he said, you know, we really don't have any firm ideas yet. And I said, I know this community well. You don't need a mom and pop grocery store because there's at least 3 or 4 of those 2 blocks away. What you need is a health center. If you're going to be housing the vulnerable population that he had described to me in these 180 units, one of the things that type of population struggles with the most is having the supportive services that they need in an accessible location, so that they're not dependent on whether or not they can catch a bus, or if there's one car in the whole household and that car is with the employed member of the family, but the mother needs to get the child to a medical appointment, or she herself needs to go. She isn't catching 3 buses to get there. So we had a lot of very productive conversations with Cristian and his team. And this is really, I will go back to this other, the conversation evolved that we would enter into a collaborative agreement with Holos to develop within the physical footprint of such a beautiful building, it's going to be small, it's only 1,500 square feet, but because of the way it's been designed, it will provide the level of care that this particular types of populations generally need. There will be primary care, there will be oral health services, we will have space for case managers and behavioral health. And though it will be small, we will be able to provide, depending on the day, we might have a pediatrician there one day, a family medicine physician there another day, women's health another day. Because it's small, we're not going to be able to have all of those services every day, but we can work out a schedule that fits the needs of the community, which is what Cristian is trying to say. He says it much more eloquently than I do, but this type of development must take into consideration the needs of your population. So as I said, it's such a beautiful building. The location is very, very central. You can see that Van Nuys Boulevard is right here. Lanark is here. And we are just thrilled to be that tiny little space right there. And we feel that this type of collaboration is going to give us the ability to meet the needs of a very vulnerable population within a community that they know, they're comfortable in. And as this slide demonstrates, this would not have been possible without very major concessions by some very, very community-minded firms. Perkins and Will is the architectural firm that designed the entire building. Cristian's team introduced us to them in the early days, and they offered to do our design pro bono. And then they spoke to their mechanical engineering firm and their structural engineering design firms. And both of those firms have offered their design services pro bono. This type of ability for major firms to go past the commercial issues and look at the needs of the community and how they can help a project like this come to fruition has been critical for us, because if we had to find funding for all of the design work, then the entire project might not have been feasible for our board of directors. So we want to thank everyone that has looked at community first and what they can do to help solve some of the problems that Cristian has laid out. The health center is going to be pretty complete. It's going to have two dental operatories. It's going to have 2 medical. There's going to be reception and waiting, a conference room. Like I said, it's small, but it will be very compactly designed to meet the needs of a population that often gets shuffled aside, and access is very problematic for a lot of them. So basically, San Fernando Community Health Center, as a federally qualified health center through the years, we are beginning to be asked by the federal government, the state and the county to look at health as more than just making sure someone gets an appointment or a prescription. We're being asked to look at health as overall wellness. So the only way we can do that, because we do not do housing, we actually don't have a food bank, we have to collaborate, and we have to understand what our community's needs are and work with people like Cristian's team at Holos to look at, okay, if we collaborate, how will that help what Cristian is trying to do, and how will it enhance the wellness for our population, and therefore make this community more livable and more sustainable in the long run. And as we've found trying to work with our patients, one of the major stresses they face is accessibility for almost all of the needs they have. So this compact, the transit-oriented communities that Cristian is speaking of, means that as they develop, these people who live within that community will not be quite as reliant on whether or not they have a car that can get on the freeway and avoid the 3 or 4 buses that Marianne so eloquently spoke of. So basically, what I think this project does is it basically redefines what makes a community livable and sustainable. And to me, having a livable and sustainable community means that we need to understand the needs of the people that are living in a particular community, and then design projects such as this that helps to meet the needs. And as Cristian has indicated, he's made his entire career in the last 20 or 30 years of trying to meet the needs of a very vulnerable population by making sure that there are affordable housing available to this population. And from a healthcare standpoint, it's essential in this new envisioned world that we're trying to create in Los Angeles, that we are able to look at the needs of our population, because otherwise the communities will not in the long term be sustainable and livable. And I'm going to turn this one back over to Cristian, because this in essence is in this one slide, particularly if you look at the words up there, just the words themselves, it is the essence of what we're hoping to accomplish by combining what we are good at, which is healthcare, and what Cristian's team is good at as designing a building that will be sustainable long term for this population. So Cristian, it's all yours.
All right.
By the way, are there other questions? I forgot to. Erica, I can't see the chat, so if there's questions.
Oh, yeah, nothing, right? Let's see. What about mental health? Gwen is asking.
Well, we will have the ability to have some of our behavioral health personnel on site, but one other collaborative partner that is going to be part of this, and we already collaborate with them. San Fernando Valley Community Mental Health Center has already agreed to come into the community itself, into Corazon del Valle, and provide mental health and supportive services. Tim Ryder and I have talked. We had a signed MOU anyway, because he gets my mail, I get his. We had to figure out who we were ages ago, but we also cross-refer patients because they have a much more robust mental health team than we do, though we do actually have a full scope. We're just not essentially mental health, which is what they do and have done for many, many years in this area. They have an excellent reputation. So the fact that they were already part of the collaboration when I met Cristian made it a perfect mix, because that means that because we have space constraints, but they already have space kind of allocated within the building, we won't need to have quite as robust a behavioral health presence as we might have. And the fact that we already work with this agency makes it very seamless. We're very, very, we're both, Tim Ryder and I are both very, very happy about this collaboration, and we're looking forward to it being a very successful one.
And then there's just another question, Cristian, in the chat. Can you review the financing for purchase, construction, and ongoing sustainability for local income population for this beautiful project?
That is a big question. There's like 5 questions in there. Is it Nancy who wrote that question, I think? Nancy, can I bug you to maybe go with one of those?
Maybe just a little background on why I'm asking.
Yeah.
We support adults with intellectual disabilities, and we are looking toward building a supported kind of pocket neighborhood, a community. And that's one of the things we're grappling with, is especially the ongoing sustainability. I think in your introduction, it was mentioned that you're able to create these projects without going through the traditional avenues of tax credits and such, if I understood right. And so I'm curious what avenues you do have, especially for folks. How do you subsidize how is their rent subsidized to live there ongoing? Once you get it built, then how are people able to afford it?
You want secret sauce, don't you, Nancy?
Well, I got a big ambitious goal, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it happen.
Well,
it sounds like
here.
you've been successful.
Okay, so just for the record, Corazon is a tax credit transaction. I just want to clarify that. But
Okay, thank you.
as it relates specifically to your question, I'll try to be as simple as I can so I don't get bogged down on the details for folks that may not be familiar with financing. When you buy a piece of land, so here I'm going to use my home props here. So let's make believe this is a piece of land, okay? When you buy a piece of land, that piece of land is somewhere between 15 and 20% of total development cost, because that's how expensive land is in Los Angeles, particularly if it's land that's zoned for higher residential. Okay, so let's say you got 15 and 20% there. And when now you build traditional construction and you put that concrete podium that holds that parking, that's another 15 to 20%. So let's say we're somewhere between 30 and 40% of cost, that's just that. And then through traditional construction, and by traditional construction, I'm referring to built-up construction, which is extremely expensive and lengthy, that can be changed if we change to a prefab typology, which we now have significant experience in. So theoretically, you can reduce costs somewhere between 35% and 50% if, for instance, we're able to secure land through a public jurisdiction, or through the Surplus Land Act with the state, or maybe we work with a church who is wanting to ground lease, and therefore you remove that capital cost from that budget. And if we're able to now site by transit-oriented communities, and we do away with the parking, or specifically the concrete portion part of it, and we're able to use a quicker and more efficient typology such as prefab, now we reduce that. And by reducing that, you're able to make the numbers work. Now, there's one additional piece to this. And today, every single permanent supportive housing project is primarily built through the program that utilizes the low-income housing tax credit that incentivizes a higher concentration of vulnerable households. That means that it creates a dependency on Section 8 because there's no way for you to underwrite that when someone doesn't have an income. So in order to be able to now effectively do away with that operational piece, you need to be able to cross-subsidize revenue. And the way to do that is to decrease the PSH so that permanent supportive housing, or let's just call it that, those homeless units, maybe as opposed to being 75% or 100% of the project, can only be 25% of the project. And maybe you have another 25% that's affordable. And then you got 50% that we would call market. And those market units now can cross-subsidize those lower income units. And what it does is that it creates an economic mobility ladder. So if someone wants to veer off Section 8 because they get a job, they can go up, but it also creates a safety net. Because we know that there's many folks in market rate units today that are barely making rent. And now if something catastrophic happens in their life, there's a unit below that they can step into. And so these are the holistic new models that today we are developing to be able to not only increase production, but have more efficiency and more sustainability. So I hope that answers your question, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Other questions? Again, I'd have to kind of look through and see if somebody's raising their hand. I don't see anybody at the moment. I would just say, in terms of the model you were just describing, Cristian, I think in terms of a more equitable society, it's a much better way to go. When I worked for many years in Pacoima, for example, there were two huge housing projects, if you will, each 400 to 500 units. One was operated by the city, one was operated privately. And it seemed to me that that model of having such dense poverty, along with a low-income neighborhood around it, kind of perpetuated poverty, generation to generation. Much better if people are kind of mixed into an apartment complex, and, you know, most of us as Americans don't ask each other what our incomes are or whatever. We're just kind of mixed in. That's in contrast, by the way. Years ago, we lived in Greece, and it was very common for Greeks to ask we Americans, how much money do you make every year? But it's not part of our culture here. So, you know, we don't necessarily know why a person is in a particular unit or whatever. But I think that's a much better model in terms of a more equitable society. So I just want to affirm that. There may be people who disagree with me, but at least that's my opinion. So
I would like to make a comment about that, because one of the first things that, when I talked to Cristian about how this particular building would be split up and who would be occupying, he made a point of saying there'll be a mix of Section 8 housing, there'll be single adults, there'll be families with children. and that there would be a mix of income levels. And one of the points he made to me was there will not be the issue that happens in a lot of Section 8 housing where if a person actually gets a better job, and then because of that better job, they're above the Section 8 threshold, they don't have to move out of their unit. Their unit might no longer be Section 8, but the Section 8, if I'm stating this incorrectly, Cristian, you can correct me, but Cristian made a point of saying that Section 8 voucher will stay with the building, and someone else can take that Section 8 voucher, but the person who got the better job is not obligated to move out and relocate, move their children out of schools that they might have become accustomed to, that type of thing, which is very, very disruptive to families, and a lot of times means that persons who are living in Section 8 housing will refuse to take the opportunity of a slightly better job because they know it's going to throw them into the issue of trying to find affordable housing in a city where the word affordable is kind of laughable in so many people.
Yes, that's correct. The jump from an affordable unit to a market unit is too gigantic, right? And we all know that. And part of the reason why that exists, actually a huge contributor of that, is because we don't have enough housing production. It's an issue of supply and demand.
Right.
So if we want to soften the market, the way to soften the market is to increase that production. But that would be a wonderful thing if we could do that. Believe you me, I work very long hours every day. My entire team does as well. And we need to direly develop these new models and more new models to be able to increase that production, to be able to soften that, but also to create these opportunities for individuals who may want to be able to, as Audrey was saying, veer off Section 8 and say, oh, you know what, I want to go live in a market rate unit outside of this building and have that opportunity. But today that doesn't exist.
Mhm. Great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that good comment. Any additional questions? Well, great presentations. Thank you so much, Cristian and Audrey, and congratulations on your innovative work and partnership together. It's just awesome. And the holistic way that you're viewing the world, to include environmental considerations as well as equity issues and so on and so forth. It's really awesome. Erica, are there any announcements from the Economic Alliance regarding upcoming events that you'd want to, or meetings or whatever that you'd want to announce at this point?
Oh, sure. If you visit our website at thevalley.net/events, you'll see all our upcoming meetings. If I can pull some up, tell everybody what's coming up. We have our economic development meeting is on February 2nd, and then we're doing a next level growth, pitching your venture to angel investors on February 7th also. And Valley Growth, we're starting a new group called Valley Growth Lab. It's a program designed to strengthen local businesses. We're going to meet in person in our office, so anybody's welcome to join us. We hope you could come and visit us on February 9th from 4 to 6. And then our diversity committee meeting is on February 15th. And then we have our gala, 2023 Valley of the Stars Gala, April 13th at the Odyssey from 5 to 9. So we hope you all can join us. And again, visit us at www, or I'm not supposed to say www anymore, thevalley.net/events. And then also too, I'll post the slides will be available on the website also. So I'll post that in the chat for everybody. And thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, and somebody was asking about a recording. How does that work, Erica?
Yeah, I'll do the replay and I'll post that on the event webpage also. Let me put that in the link where it'll be. Give me about 30-40 minutes after today.
Okay, great. Great.
today's meeting, and I'll be able to get it up on our YouTube channel and then onto the website.
Okay. And then one other question, Erica. I know that we're going to be on a little bit different schedule this year, not meeting quite as often. So maybe you can describe that to the group. It's been a while since Sonia Blake and I had that conversation. So I can't quite remember what she had said.
Oh, sure. So the next meeting scheduled for April 20th at 10 to 11. And then I think after that, so April, and then we go into October. So it looks like it's like every 4 months.
Okay.
Something like
And I think
that.
part of it is that her thought was that there will be some working groups that are working on specific projects.
Projects.
So I
And the
assume
goals
that we'll
that
be-
were set.
Yeah. So we're related to the new strategic plan for the Alliance. So I'm sure that we'll be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. So at any rate, well, great.
And
Okay.
everything, of course, is on our website. Everybody's on our mailing list. I know you got a ton of emails from us these last couple of weeks. So thank you for always still being part of our organization for that. And also we have our valuable business resources available at thevalley.net/assist.
Wonderful. Well, great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, thanks to Cristian and Audrey for your great presentation. Thanks to Erica and the team for your facilitation. That's awesome. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. And we hope to see you in April. And if not before, we might be seeing you at some other Economic Alliance meetings or events. So thank you very much, everyone.
Great work, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks.